symphony for the senses. The final, mournful note from Leo's piano hung in the smoky air of the Blue Note Club, then dissolved into polite, scattered applause. He nodded curtly, his fingers still resting on the cool ivory keys. He had played every note perfectly, a flawless execution of a complex jazz piece. But he had felt nothing. The music, once his entire world, was now just a series of technical movements, a hollow echo of a passion he no longer possessed. Miles away, sunlight streamed into a paint-splattered studio, illuminating a storm of color. Canvases leaned against every wall, each a vibrant explosion of life. In the center stood Clara, squinting at her latest work. A frustrated sigh escaped her lips. The brilliant crimson she had mixed on her palette looked muted on the canvas, a ghost of the fiery color in her mind. The world was slowly, inexorably, losing its focus. Leo walked the city's cobblestone streets, the night air cool against his face. He was searching for a spark, a sound, a feeling, anything to break through the gray fog that had settled over his soul. But the city's familiar rhythm, the distant laughter, the rumble of the last tram, all felt like a song played in a minor key. He was about to turn home when a splash of color caught his eye. In the window of a small, closed art gallery, one painting was illuminated. It was a chaotic, beautiful tempest of blues and golds, so full of emotion it seemed to vibrate. It was everything his music was not. He stood there for a long time, captivated. The next day, he found himself pushing open the gallery door. The artist was there, talking animatedly with the owner. It was Clara. Her hands danced as she spoke, describing the way the light felt on a winter morning. Leo was drawn not just to her art, but to the passion that radiated from her, like warmth from a fire. "Your work, it feels like music," Leo said, the words surprising him. Clara turned her bright, intelligent eyes on him. "That's funny," she replied with a wry smile. "I love music, but I find it hard to see it sometimes." Her choice of words struck a chord in him, a strange and beautiful dissonance. An idea, the first truly creative impulse he'd had in months, took hold. "Let me play for you," he said. "Tonight, at the Blue Note, I want to try and make you see it." Clara hesitated for only a moment, a flicker of curiosity in her eyes, before she nodded. "Okay." That night, the club was just as empty, but it didn't matter. There was an audience of one. Leo sat at the piano, closed his eyes, and thought of the painting in the window. He didn't just play the notes, he played the colors. He translated the swirling golds into soaring arpeggios and the deep blues into rich, resonant chords. In the audience, Clara closed her eyes too. She let the sounds wash over her. And in the darkness of her mind, something miraculous happened. Colors began to bloom. The music wasn't just sound. It was a living, breathing canvas of light and shadow, painted just for her. The final note faded into a profound silence. Leo walked to her table, his heart pounding. "I saw it," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. It was the color of sunrise. In that moment, Leo felt a connection so deep it reset his entire world. His music had a purpose again. They became inseparable. They walked through the city's parks, and he would describe the staccato chirping of a sparrow as a spray of tiny, bright yellow dots, while she would describe the sunset as a slow, fading cello chord. They were building a new language together, one of sound and sight. One afternoon in her studio, the bright sun seemed to mock her. She put down her brush, her hand trembling. "It's getting worse, Leo," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. "Soon, all these colors will just be memories. What will I be without them?" Leo didn't speak. He walked over to an old cello that stood in the corner of her studio. He took her hand, his touch gentle, and placed her fingers against the rough, wound strings. "Art isn't just about seeing, Clara. he said softly. It's about feeling. He began to teach her the piano. Her fingers, so graceful with the brush, were clumsy on the keys. Frustration brought her to tears more than once, but Leo was always there, guiding her hands, teaching her to feel the shape of a melody, the texture of a chord. As the world of light grew dimmer for Clara, the world of sound grew richer. Her sense of touch became her guide. Her playing, once hesitant, became bold and expressive, a torrent of raw emotion that she could no longer pour onto canvas. She, in turn, reshaped his music. Don't be afraid of the wrong notes, Leo, she'd say, listening to him compose. Sometimes, the most beautiful colors are the ones you never intended to mix. She taught him to find beauty in the blur, in the unexpected. They began composing together, a duet that was a true conversation. His parts were structured, melodic. Hers were intuitive, harmonic explorations. It was the sound of two souls, learning to see the world through each other's senses. In the middle of a soaring passage, he suddenly stopped playing. The abrupt silence was more powerful than any chord. He turned on the bench to face her fully. Clara, he began, his voice quiet and serious. You gave me my music back, he said, his voice trembling slightly. You brought the color back into my world, even as it was fading from yours. I see it all now, through you. She couldn't make out his features clearly anymore, just the warm, kind shape of him. But she heard everything in his voice. She reached a hand up, her fingers gently tracing the line of his jaw. And you, she whispered, a single tear rolling down her cheek, gave me a new way to paint. He leaned forward and kissed her. It was a kiss of profound tenderness, a silent symphony of shared feelings, of gratitude, and of a love that had found its voice in the quiet spaces between the senses. They decided to share their new world. They planned an event, not a concert or an exhibition, but an experience. They spent weeks preparing, Leo composing, Clara working with a digital artist to translate her musical visions into light. The hall was dark and silent. Leo began to play their duet. As the first notes filled the air, a huge screen behind him came to life. It wasn't paintings, but pure, abstract light, colors that swirled, pulsed, and danced in perfect time with the emotional arc of the music. Clara sat in the front row, her eyes closed. She didn't need to see the screen. She felt the vibrations of the bass notes through the floor, heard the story in the soaring melody, and in her mind, she saw colors more brilliant than any she had ever put on canvas. As the last hopeful note faded, the audience sat in stunned silence before erupting into thunderous applause. Leo took a single bow, then walked off the stage, not backstage, but directly to Clara. He knelt before her chair and took both of her hands in his. Their world was not defined by what was lost, but by the extraordinary symphony they had created together.